This is about defending democracy. This is no longer Democrats versus Republicans. What do you want your kids to believe in? There must be give and take.
This is White Flag with Joe Walsh.
Two problems whenever there's a mass shooting in America. Problem number one, we move on. It happens, 8 are killed, 10 are killed, 12 are killed, or like in Maine, 3-4 days ago, 18 innocent people are killed. And we move on until it happens again. And then we move on again until it happens again. That's problem number one. Problem number two is way too many of us just always blame guns. Generally the left and Democrats just blame the gun. I know there's a lot going on, right? Israel defending itself, the Middle East exploding, everything going on politically here in this country with Trump and his court appearances and everything. But 4 days ago, in the state of Maine, an Army reservist went on a rampage and killed 18 innocent people. And nobody's talking about it anymore, and we've moved on, and all of America now is just going to think, okay, America's got a problem with guns, let's move on until there's another mass shooting. Stop. Do you know the first thing about why this guy did what he did? Do we know anything about him? Have you stopped paying attention to this story? You ought to pay attention. We ought to pay attention to this story because you know what? Local authorities, it looks like in Maine, dropped the fucking ball. There were red flags coming out of everywhere on this guy. This guy was a mental ticking time bomb, and nobody in Maine did anything about it. It's not just the guns. A fellow soldier, 6 weeks before the shooting last week, said in a report in a September welfare check on the killer that he was concerned this guy, Card, was going to snap and commit a mass shooting. This guy, 6 weeks, the killer, the shooter, 6 weeks before he went on his rampage, the Maine National Guard submitted his September welfare check. And they said about this mass shooter, he's suffering from psychotic episodes. He's hearing voices that are all calling him a pedophile. He's making threats to shoot up a National Guard facility. He'd been committed over the summer with an altered mental state. This was in September. The U.S. Army in September, 6 weeks before he went on his rampage, asked local authorities to check on him. Local authorities tried to check on him, they've said, without any success. His family complained and was worried about his mental state. And this fellow soldier who said in early September, in this guy's report, he's going to snap. He's going to commit a mass shooting. All of this information about the guy who shot and killed 18 people in Maine just 4 days ago, all of this information was conveyed to local law enforcement. 6 weeks before 18 people were killed. Guns, 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 right? Just guns, right? This is infuriating. And I know, again, what's equally infuriating is everybody's moved on, right? There's a mass shooting. We all cling to our narratives. Guns are everything. Guns had nothing to do with it, and we move on, right? None of us bother to examine the details of any of these mass shootings. This guy was a ticking time bomb, and everybody knew it. The Maine National Guard knew it. The U.S. Army Reserve, the U.S. Army knew it. Local law enforcement knew it, and nobody did any. Well, that's not fair. The information was submitted to local law enforcement, and the best right now we've got out of local law enforcement is that they tried without success to speak with him 6 weeks before he went off. By the way, everybody needs to follow Shimon Prokupez at CNN. Follow him on Twitter if you do, at Shimon, Shimonpro. He's on top of this. He's the wonderful CNN reporter who just stayed down in Uvalde, Texas, for week after week after week until local law enforcement was held accountable. He's doing the same thing up in Maine right now. This is infuriating. Local law enforcement was told that this guy is going to go on a rampage, that this guy was threatening to shoot people up. He was hearing voices. Why is this important? As the world argues and debates guns, Maine has what's called a yellow flag law. Not a red flag law, a yellow flag law. And the yellow flag law, the law in Maine says that if local law enforcement has a reason to believe that someone is a danger to themselves or others, they have the ability to take this person to a local physician to have this guy examined. And if the person, if the physician, the mental health care expert believes that this guy is in fact a threat, if the doctor says that, the guns can be temporarily removed. It's not a red flag law, it's a yellow flag law. You've got to have the doctor say he's a threat, and then boom, the guns are temporarily removed. That yellow flag law in Maine was clearly not followed. This killer in Maine, this mass shooter, killed 18 people, was clearly a threat to himself and others. And everybody knew it 6 weeks before he went on his rampage. The investigation will continue. Clearly, balls were dropped. And it sounds like local law enforcement, given this information by the Army, that this guy, man, is a basket case. Check on him. Local law enforcement didn't do it, and local law enforcement didn't take this guy to medical professionals to get this guy's guns temporarily taken away. This is infuriating. Now, I'm not saying don't have the debate and the discussion and the argument about guns, but it's not just guns. 18 people were killed in Maine, and it wasn't just about a gun. His guns should have been temporarily taken away from him. God, this is just infuriating. I'm Joe Walsh. Thanks for listening. Be brave.
Thank you for listening. Remember to listen, share, and follow White Flag with Joe Walsh on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and everywhere great podcasts are found. And be sure to leave a 5-star review. This has been White Flag with Joe Walsh.